Hello, I have great news. Salesforce has announced a new type of Trailblazer community user group, and these are for architects. And I was chosen to lead the Jacksonville Architect Group. And as my first meeting, I was able to set up a presentation and a session with Antoine Cabot. I'm hoping I'm not saying the last name wrong. Antoine is the director of product management within Salesforce, responsible for the orchestrator and also flow automation integrating with Slack. And Antoine shared with us his take on Salesforce automation, how he sees it evolving in the future, and what different tools we have available and how they fit kind of into the whole architectural picture. This was a fantastic session, and I hope you find it beneficial as well. Enjoy. This is the first ever meeting for the Salesforce Architect Group Jacksonville, United States. These groups are brand new and they just started. So we are one of the few ones that, got started early. And if you are an architect already working in some kind of architect capacity, or you would like to build your skills towards being an architect, you can obviously join this group. We have these meetings that we are going to organize, so anybody can join the meetings. And we also have the group on the Trailblazer community. When joining the group on Trailblazer community, I try and ask a couple of questions about the background of the folks so that I can direct them in the right direction, because we have multiple user groups, and if somebody is starting new, I usually direct them to the admin group. So who am I? I am quite active on the internet, in the community. I usually deal with a lot of flow automation, and I teach flows on multiple platforms, and I'm working on building myself, building my skills as an architect. So this was a good way for me to give back to the community, another way that I try to give back to the community, and at the same time, obviously, develop myself. Thank you very much for joining today. You can reach me on multiple platforms. These are my handles and websites, and I try to link everything to the blog salesforcebreak.com. And today, I'm super excited to have this session with you, because like I said, I'm very passionate about automation on the platform. And what better way for me to start these meetings than with the subject of the orchestrator, and also touching on the subject of Slack screen flows possibly, or Slack automation as it relates to Salesforce. And we have today with us Antoine Cabot, and the Senior Director of Product Management. And he is the brains behind the orchestrator and probably a couple of other things, and he'll be able to tell you all about it. And he is going to, I think, present or demo a couple of things for us. Maybe that's going to last about half an hour, and then we can have an open discussion. And Antoine told me that he is very much open and interested in hearing the community's feedback. And that's it. And if you stay until the end, I'm going to actually do a certification voucher giveaway. So you can actually, if you're lucky, you'll be able to also entitle to a certification voucher. And Antoine, please take it away. I think you'll be able to share now.
You should give me access. Yeah, that's working now. Thank you.
Yes, I just opened it up.
Yeah, perfect. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So thank you for having me. Very excited to speak with you guys today about flow orchestration and flow in Slack. Thank you, Andy, for mentioning that I'm kind of the brain behind flow orchestration. Actually, I would say dad of flow orchestration is probably Alex Edelstein, who is my boss, who is also maintaining, as you know, an official SF.com. So he's the person who kind of did the inception of flow orchestration on top of Flow. And I joined Salesforce a year and a half ago, and this was a POC at that time. And Alex told me, okay, now you're going to take this product and move it to a real product, move it to GA, and then build on top of that. So that's now my responsibility at Salesforce since I joined the company. It's been a very exciting journey, long journey so far, because it's hard to move a product from a POC to a GA product. At Salesforce, we have to make a lot of concessions. So that has been a very insightful journey for me. Quick things about myself. I'm originally from France. I'm now based in Canada, in Vancouver. Though that's why my background looks very much like my backyard right now. And yeah, before joining Salesforce, I was working a startup called Parsable, and the startup was focused on process automation for large industrial companies. So people like Shell, BP, Unilever, all these kind of companies. I was doing a lot of process automation. If some of you on the call are familiar with manufacturing, I was kind of digitizing processes like Lotto and Gamba Works and things like that. So something that is not very known at Salesforce. And the idea was really to bring that background at Salesforce and say, hey, now we can build something related to business process automation on top of the existing stack that we have with Flow. And we're also adding Slack now, because I joined Salesforce also because of the Slack acquisition. And the reason is because I strongly believe that Slack can be a real key enabler for having more people involved into this kind of processes. It's a great way to interact with your employees, potentially with your customers using Slack Connect. And I've been lucky enough to also be involved in working in what we call now Flow in Slack. So all the integration that you can create between Slack and Salesforce Flow. So that's kind of the intro. I want this, presentation to be interactive. So feel free to interrupt, put questions in the chat. I don't intend to do a 1 hour, one-way presentation. So I know Brian has already a lot of questions, so I'm sure he will jump in. All right, so let's move on here. And can I see the chat? I just want to check that I can see the chat. So if you have questions, or Andy, do you want to just monitor the chat?
Yeah, Antoine, I can monitor the chat for you.
Yeah,
but
perfect.
Like Antoine mentioned, feel free to also interrupt,
Yes.
when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Please stop me anytime. All right, forward-looking statements. You probably know it by heart already. Don't do your purchase decision based on what is available. What we'll be talking about today are things that will come in the next release, winter release and spring 23. So keep in mind that they are not yet available for purchase. One quick thing I wanted to do as well, we're in a small group right now, is, how many of you are using Slack right now? Can you just raise your hand in Zoom if we can? All right. Oh yeah, we have some people there. Okay, great. Okay, because we have this, and the reason I'm asking is because many of our customers, as you can imagine, are using Teams, and sometimes I'm doing a full presentation on Slack, and then at the end it's like, that's great, but I don't have this because I'm using Teams. So looks like we have a large audience using Slack, which is great. So today we'll be covering flow orchestration. It's the new name. You probably, if you heard from Trailblazer DX back in April, we have renamed all the Salesforce Flow products. So now there is this big brand called Salesforce Flow that includes a bunch of things like Flow, flow integration, flow RPA, and flow orchestration. So all this, so I'm going to miss that multiple times. I would probably call this orchestrator many times. I'm still getting used to this new name, which is flow orchestration. Then we'll talk about flow in Slack. And then I'd like to show you a combined scenario. It will not really be a combined scenario. I would show you basically two scenarios separated, demos, and then we go through Q&A. All right. So let's introduce where flow orchestration sits in our portfolio. First of all, as you all know, automation at Salesforce is really big. We have a lot of things that are coming from our own technology and acquisitions. By the way, Flow is also one of our acquisitions that was done 12 years ago. So this is a product that has been fully integrated into Salesforce now, but that was originally coming from an acquisition. So we have all this stuff coming from MuleSoft, from Slack, that are now combined into this idea that we have some tools for orchestrations, and we'll speak about that today. We have workflow libraries and extended capabilities through using AppExchange. So that's the platform side. And then we have different tools for automation, interactions, and decisioning. All of this is supposed to work really well together, and I will show you an example today. And then at the bottom here, we have the integration, which is mainly done by the MuleSoft platform today, but we also have external services. That is our easy way to connect your Salesforce org to third-party services, and also Salesforce Connect. We are planning to do a lot of investment into this to make sure that you can really easily integrate third-party software with Flow, with bots, with all the technology that is available in automation. MuleSoft RPA, which is now called Flow RPA, is going live, I think, at the end of the year. So that might be something you would be interested to look at. So if we look at more specifically at the process automation suite for you guys as architects, there are three main ways to make things happen. I'm guessing there is nothing new here. You can go full declarative using Flow and Orchestrator. We forget about workflow rules and process builder. You know that they will be deprecated one day, so don't talk about them. Flow and Orchestrator on Flow orchestration, easy to configure. You have some platform integration. There is an ecosystem with an official SF, and you have some cons, which are the limited UI design, as you all know, and some limited integration capabilities. Then you have, in the middle, you have Omni Studio. How many of you are familiar with Omni Studio? That's also a technology that we acquired through the Velocity acquisition. None of you are actually familiar with Omni Studio. That's interesting. So Omni Studio provide a way to create pretty much what you do already with Flow, but using a more like on-top technology that is running on top of our platform. It's currently running in a managed package, but this is something we are now building into our platform. So you will have that available as standard components and stuff. To tell you the story here, Omni Studio, which was technology built by Velocity. Velocity has been acquired by Salesforce, and the Velocity CEO and founder is now our CPO at Salesforce. He's our Chief Product Officer. So he has a very strong say about what do we do with Omni Studio and how we integrate that technology onto the Salesforce stack. So I'm going to show you a few things about Omni Studio. It's something you can use, but it has different licensing and stuff. So that's something you will have to look at. Full programmatic, of course, you can always go programmatic with the Salesforce platform. Use Apex, LWC, AppExchange. You can do whatever you want on top of the platform, which is very powerful. That's also something that is sometimes problematic. For example, for Flow orchestration, some customers will always tell you, hey, I can do this with Apex. And the only answer we have is yes, you can absolutely do everything that Flow orchestration do with Apex. It's just that you will have to maintain all this code instead of having a full declarative tool that will give you a full view of your process. But you can always do things with Apex. All right, Flow, nothing really new here. You know that Flow is awesome. And I know Andy has been blogging a lot about this for the past years. So, you know, it's our bedrock of automation. We are now executing 1 trillion flows every quarter. So it's going like I think we tripled the usage of Flow over the past year since I joined Salesforce. So it's been pretty amazing. There is also an awesome ecosystem with an official SF, huge adoption around Flow. And you probably know also that even internally, we have more and more teams actually building products that are shipped to customers that are built on top of Flow. But having said that, there are use cases that go beyond the out of the box, right? And you need to build things by non-devs, and that's why we are providing new options. So sometimes Flow out of the box cannot support, for example, workflows that collects, update, or create Salesforce dates. So there are a few things that you can't do with Flow and where you need code for extensibility. So some of this is kind of going deep into using invocable Apex to consume external data. It requires invocable Apex as well to work with complex queries, manage your Salesforce platform limits, and so on. And also Flow doesn't support multi-user processes. So if you end up in one of these scenarios where you see that Flow is just not enough, you should definitely consider 2 things. Omni Studio on one side, which reduces the amount of code needed to work with hierarchical external data, and build Pixel Perfect UI. So that's the 2 things that Omni Studio is doing really well. And the other thing is Flow orchestration. If you have, if you need to run a flow of flows and you need to have multiple users involved into your process, then Flow orchestration is definitely the way to go. That's one capabilities that we're adding on top of Flow. Keep in mind that Flow orchestration is built on top of Flow. So all the good things that we get for Flow in every single release, you will get them automatically in Flow orchestration. All right, so let's look quickly at what Flow orchestration is. I'm assuming that most of you have already looked at it, maybe not tried build yet, but I'm assuming that probably most of you knows what this is. So the idea is to orchestrate work across users and systems. So if you have a process that at least goes between 2 humans, like an approval, for example, which is the most basic workflow that you can imagine, then Orchestrator or Flow orchestration will be a good fit because you will be able to have 2 flows, one for the submitter, one for the approver, and then you will be able to go back and forth between these 2, providing comments and managing approvals and rejections. If you also need to integrate with third-party system, like in your workflow, there is one place, like imagine a recruiting process where at some point you need to get information from Workday. That's also where Flow orchestration will be great. Like you have this process that is running internally, you have the hiring manager, you have the HR, you have the candidates that are interacting using flows. And then at some point in your process, what you want to do is get this information from Workday. So you create a background step, and then you fetch that information dynamically from Workday. You can build complex workflows very fast. This is our low-code approach. So that's why we don't support things like BPMN, for example, because we want you to be able to create your process very, very quickly using clicks and not code. We don't want you to have to create a separate diagram, even if I know Brian likes it. And when he introduced Orchestrator, he said that it's very important to have it on paper first. I agree with that. I think this is important to have a clear idea of what your process looks like overall, but it doesn't prevent you to start building an orchestration from scratch. You can easily create stages and steps and start making your process more and more complex along the way. One of the key benefits of using flow orchestration is to optimize time between handoffs. That's really where we see a lot of value, is really making sure that when the process is going from Andy to Brian, then as soon as Andy has done the work, then Brian will do the work as well. And then when Brian has done the work, then this work goes to Antoine. So we are basically moving what needs to be done to the right person at the right time. And that's really where the value is. So what I keep hearing that question about, when should I use flow? When should I use flow orchestration? At the end, more and more, there are different products. If you look at your process and you say, hey, looks like it's multi-department or at least multiple persons working together on this process. It requires some parallel processing. There is some place in your process where you need two persons to do two different things on the same record page. That's probably a good fit. You want to get something low code. Like if you want to go Apex, go Apex. There is no need to look at flow orchestration. But if you really want to use a low code tool that will make it easier for you to maintain this process, use flow orchestration. And then finally, support all orgs, which is very, very important here. Flow orchestration is a consumption-based product. So you will have to pay for how much you consume, how many runs of flow orchestrations you consume. The benefit is that we don't charge you for licenses, for user licenses for people or employees or customers that are part of the process that don't require a full CRM license. What it means is that we give your customers, or we give you a free user license for anyone that is part of this orchestration, but doesn't require full access. That's very important to understand. We don't want to double charge the customer by saying you pay for the product that you consume, plus you pay for user licenses. It's very important to see that Salesforce is kind of moving into that direction of consumption-based for this product specifically, and we don't want to charge you additionally for user licenses. So as a summary, flow orchestration is kind of a flow supercharger. It's a unifying layer built on top of flow, enabling more comprehensive automation. Any question on flow orchestration before we move on?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions actually in the chat window. I don't know whether you want to address this, but it's a very common question. How about the pricing, paid versus not paid? And there is a little bit disappointment and concern about the orchestrator being a paid feature when flow workflow rules and process builder was included. And then there's one more from Brian. Would you recommend trying to use orchestration as a way to attempt to get around iteration limits?
All right, so first question, pricing. So the situation right now is we decided to go with a paid product here because we feel that there is a lot of value in orchestration. Like we really feel that our customers get a lot more value from flow orchestration than from flow. So it makes sense to say, hey, flow is part of the platform because it's kind of automation for a specific record or for a specific user. If you think about a record triggered flow or a screen flow, this is usually just one piece of automation attached to one single record to one single user. If you look at flow orchestration now, you can create potentially an orchestration that is kind of, kind of linking together hundreds of records, hundreds of users in your organization. So the value there is a lot higher than what we've been providing in the past for flow. That's why this product is a paid product. The reason why we came up with this pricing is because we really want to go into a consumption-based model now. We believe at Salesforce that after 22 years selling user licenses, we have to move to something more, I would say, AWS-like, where our consumers can just pay for what they consume, and if they don't consume the product, then they don't pay for it. And the counterparts to that is that if we move into that direction, then we have to make these user licenses kind of free, right? And that's what we're doing. We have this amazing $0 user license where we say, hey, if you buy orchestration, if you start using, and you only need to buy 12 runs. So you just buy 12 runs for $12, and then we give you licenses for all your finance department or HR department, all these folks that don't have to be that don't need a full CRM license. And when I'm thinking about this in manufacturing, for example, it means that all your employees, all the people, all the blue collars, they can potentially have a free Salesforce license just to be able to be part of a process and interact with the Salesforce platform. So that's what so the pricing right now is the listed pricing is $1 a run. The reason why we do that is because it's very easy to understand. You are creating an orchestration for case management, for example, case processing. You know exactly how many cases you run every month. If it's 1,000, then that will cost you $1,000 a month. And of course, there will be discounts based on the number of runs that you want to have. And that's part of the commercial discussion. But that's what it is about the pricing. Question from Brian, which was, is there a way to attempt to get around iteration limits? I should probably dig more into that. I can connect with Adam White as well on this, if that might be, that might solve this problem. I haven't thought enough about this, so I can't really tell you. I would say it's hacky. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. It would be hacky, yeah. But I have an increasing number of flows,
yeah,
which you can 100% design declaratively.
Yeah,
but because of the inflow of records, it immediately makes it not capable of it, because you only get a 2,000 iteration or
yeah,
element.
That's a good point. I think Adam is trying to make some great progress in how we can avoid hitting all the limits that we have in Flow today with filters and things like that he's adding right now. I think that's probably that's probably easier to go that route than trying to separate this into multiple flows and then combine all these flows into flow orchestration. Yeah. And yeah, back to pricing, I forgot to mention that we give you 600 runs for free per year. Keep in mind that this is only for your production environment. Your sandbox is unlimited. All your developer or Scratch orgs have unlimited number of runs. Why we came up with 600, it's just to let you test your orchestration in production, making sure that everything works well. And then when it's working well, then you start paying for the paid SKU. One thing I'm not supposed to say, but I would tell you guys, is that we don't block you. So when you eat the 600, it doesn't change anything. You can continue using it as much as you want. Like, we really want to encourage our customers to use Flow orchestration. The idea is that when it will be time for a contract renewal, we look back at how many runs you have, and then we'll tell you, hey, you have run 2,000 orchestration runs over the past 6 months or over the past year. Why don't we add that to your contract for the next year? That's kind of how this process will work. But don't feel that I should not use orchestration because it's a paid product and I will never get approval to use it. Try it, see if it's a fit for your process, see if you see ROI, see if you see value there. If you see value, then I'm sure you will be able to show in 1 year that it's worth paying for it. All right, any other question, Andy, or should we move on?
Yeah, just one follow-up question to pricing. It would be best to address it now. I think Jonathan says, is there any concern with consumption-based pricing for complex processes would want to move to Orchestrator, but have a high dropout rate? I think this is referring to the fact, I think, that the pricing is based on the orchestrations that are started. And then if they don't get finished, you still get charged. Is that what it is, Jonathan?
So just to be clear on that one,
Yes.
what is an orchestration run? An orchestration run is really your orchestration from top to bottom. So an orchestration can run in 5 minutes if you have like just 2 steps. It can also run in 2 days, 3 days, eventually 6 months. Like your orchestration can go from step 1 to step N, in a 6 months time frame. And you will pay the same price for this orchestration running 5 minutes or running 6 months. So the idea here is that you should really create your entire process in this orchestration. And this process will cost you $1 to run, but that will be from top to bottom. As I confirmed to Jonathan that you will be charged when the orchestration starts. So that's very important that you make sure that your orchestration is working when you move it to production.
Okay, yeah, let's continue, please.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about Flow in Slack now. So what is Flow in Slack? So as you know, Salesforce acquired Slack 2 years ago. Took us some time to get the 2 platforms kind of integrated, but we are start seeing the benefits today. And the very first benefit is all the Slack actions available in Flow Builder. They are going GA today. So as of today, you can create channels, archive channel, invite users, send Slack message, pin message, get Slack information about a specific channel. So all of this is available already today in Flow Builder. So you create a flow, you make sure that you connect, you install one of our Salesforce app in Slack. That can be Salesforce for Slack, Service Cloud for Slack, or Sales Cloud for Slack. One of them, you connect your Slack or your Slack workspace to your Salesforce org. As soon as this is connected, then you can open these actions and specify what app you want to use, what workspace you want to target, and then what is the actions parameters. All of this is available today. So really feel free to start using it. Feel free to give us feedback about these actions. Tell us which other actions you need. This was built based on the assumption that that's what most of our customers will do with when integrating Salesforce with Slack, and it's really automating Slack directly from Salesforce. You can use the @, when you say @function, do you mean @mentions probably? Yes, probably @mentions. Yes, you can use @mentions. I should definitely post something on your official sf.com to say that, but you can use the like inferior sign at the Slack user ID, superior sign in your Slack post message. And that will automatically render a mention in Slack. The only caveat is that you have to know the Slack user ID in advance. And in all these actions, we always rely on the Salesforce user ID. The idea is that we do the mapping for you. You don't have to worry about who is Andy in Slack. You just worry about who is Andy in Salesforce. Okay, I'm going to invite Andy to this Slack channel. I'm putting the Andy Salesforce user ID in the invite user. Sometimes, especially for mentions, you need to have the Slack user ID because only Slack can actually resolve a user ID into a username in Slack. So that's the only exception when you will have to find Andy's Slack user ID and put that into your Slack message. That's also an information that you can in some way store in Salesforce if you want, like having your own mapping between a Salesforce user and a Slack user. Oh yeah, team is not supported. So if you want to mention a Slack team, that's not supported yet. You can probably try it. If you can get an ID, like a Slack team ID, you can try. That might just work. I haven't tested it yet. All right, so what I wanted to kind of show you today is more like flow in Slack, because I think that's where the value is. So Slack, when I speak with customers and probably most of you guys, you will tell me that Slack is a great communication tool. It's great to see Slack as a communication tool, but I think the reason why we acquired Slack is because it's way more than that. It's also a place where you can actually do work. Some of you are probably using Jira. If you use Jira, there are a lot of things like triaging your tickets, updating your acceptance criteria and things like that. You can already do using the Jira for Slack app within Slack. You don't even have to go into Jira, navigate into your dashboards and everything. You can do all of this in Slack. That's what we are bringing with Flow in Slack. You have your existing screen flows for guiding your customers to create an object in Salesforce. This screen flow will now run directly in Slack. We'll send this person a message saying, hey, please complete that form. User click on that button, and then we'll show the screen flow rendered natively in Slack. And I will show you a demo later on. So the idea is really to say, hey, now Slack can be your engagement layer for Salesforce. And that's what Service Cloud for Slack, Sales Cloud for Slack apps are building. Is the idea that if you are a salesperson, you don't even have to look at Salesforce anymore. You just look at Slack. You can ask Slack, what's my list of opportunities? Which one I should work on today? Let me update the status for this specific opportunity. All of this logic is created already, and you can use that. But here, what I'm focusing on is really Flow in Slack and making sure that all your screen flows that you have created in the past can be executed natively in Slack to collect inputs and guide customers directly where they are, which is in Slack. All right. Okay, so now let's put all of this together, and I think we're already late, so I'm gonna go quickly on this. So process automation is not simple or straightforward. We all know that. We usually look at BPM diagram where we see, okay, all the swim lanes and all people involved. It's not super easy. So you can have manual tasks, you can have record updates, can be complex, internal, external, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to show you today is a quick demo of a loan approval. I think most of us here are familiar with this process of asking for a loan and then get an approval based on the risk that the customer is exposed to. So let's see this quick demo here. I think I have time. Let's make sure that I show you that. All right, so we'll start from this Salesforce org here. I will just make sure that I'm still connected. Yeah, we're all good. And this process will start from an Experience Cloud website. So we have created this website for a bank called Cumulus Bank. It's something running on top of Salesforce, like any other Experience Cloud website. And then what I want to do here is go on that website as a customer and apply for a personal loan. So what this will do is that we will load an OmniScript. So OmniScript is one of the OmniStudio technology that I mentioned before. It's very much like a screen flow, but it has a lot of capabilities to be pixel perfect and make sure that it really reflects your brand, and you have these very nice guided steps here. So can do a bit more than Flow in terms of customization. So here you start this process. And then we say, okay, I'm gonna buy a car, right? So let's buy a car for $25,000, and I need the financing on 24 months. Okay, I'm gonna say no to this, and then all the information here has been already provided. So I'm Rachel Morris in my example, and then next I want to approve. So the information is correct. I approve the waiver, and then next I can add some liabilities like my home mortgage, for example, for I don't know, $200,000, and then monthly payment are $1,500, probably more than that, probably $3,000. And save, and then next. Yeah, here I can have like the integration with DocuSign, for example. So that's the kind of thing that OmniStudio or OmniScript will provide out of the box. You have this nice integration with DocuSign where you can quickly go through these documents and then sign the document and everything. All right, next. And then what we say here, is this a complex loan or not? So in this case, we'll assume that this is a complex loan, okay? So what is happening right now is that we are creating an object within Salesforce. We're creating an opportunity, and this opportunity is right there. I go back into Rachel's account. So we have Rachel. So we are on the account of Rachel Morris. And Rachel will have a new opportunity here. And I will show you, I will show you what the orchestration will look like. So when the opportunity is created, which is in here, this is the orchestration. So the opportunity is created. Then what we do is that we will ask the first person responsible for the loan to just quickly check what's going on with this loan, what is the purpose, etc. So just provide some additional information using a ScreenFlow. So that's an interactive step. Then if the loan is complex, which is the case in our scenario, then we'll go through risk processing and we'll send a work item to a risk assessor to check to do a credit check on Rachel's, and then give his assessment on the risk. And then when all of this is done, so the loan is basically approved, then we generate the docs that are needed and we send that over to Rachel. So if I come back here, so if I look at the related opportunities, probably this one. So yeah, so the amount is 25,000. So now I'm requested and it has been created, today. So we are good. We're just we just created this this loan here. So this is the loan for Rachel. And I'm just going to provide additional information. What she wants to do? It's an auto loan, and then the first payment date is supposed to happen, let's say, in a month from now, so July 15. And then the stage right now is, let's say, it's qualification right now. And this is the orchestration work guide. If you're not familiar with this is a Lightning component that you can add to the record page that will show what is currently assigned to you as a user. So now if I go into another account like Tim, who is our risk manager, then you will see that if I go into on the exact same page, then I will see something different because the work item that I've been assigned to that person is different. So it's Tim. Sorry, I don't remember his name. Let me check. It's Tim Smith. Okay, I'm going to log in as Tim Smith. And I will open the exact same record. So as you can see here, I click got it, and then the work items say, you have no work item assigned for this record, right? And what I'm going to do here is open the exact same page as Tim. And Tim has been notified that there is something waiting for him. Like he has to go through Rachel's loan opportunity and do a risk assessment. So now we have this other ScreenFlow that has been, so we look at here, we are here in this process now, what the risk, we identified that the loan is complex, and then we are going through risk analysis. This is a ScreenFlow. This is a flex card. So that's also a technology from Omni Studio that lets you connect a third party. So right now we are doing a credit check, making sure that Rachel can actually get the loan. So looks good. The weighted risk is okay. So I'm gonna approve this loan here. Oh, sorry, there is something wrong in this. Should probably adjust the amounts then. Yeah, we'll adjust the loan here. We'll say, okay, this is approved, but only $20,000 based on the assumption here. So what this flow will do is update the loan that has been approved, and then we will go back to our initial user here. I need to log out from Tip first. Okay, so here I'm going to finish this ScreenFlow here. Okay, no work assigned left. And I will log out Steam, go back to my user here. And then here, what I can see is the last step, if you remember, was to generate all the documentation for the loan with the right amount, right? So Now, if I go back into Rachel and I look at the related tab, I can see that a document has been generated today, and this document is saying that the amount for a Rachel that has been approved today is $20,000. So as you see, it's a simple process, right? It's not complicated. It's between two individuals. There are some information that is processed by humans, some that is processed using a doc generator or document like a PDF generator. So all of this is happening in one single orchestration. Any question on this?
Well, my question related to this, Antoine, is first of all, how do we play with Omni Studio, OmniScript? Do we install a managed package for now in a dev org or something? Because I've never touched it.
That's a great question. I think it's still a managed package right now. You can probably just Google Omni Studio or OmniScript and you will find some trails in Trailhead that explain how to start using it. Yeah, there are a bunch of trails available.
And this is probably additional. I mean, you have to pay licenses to use that, like in a production environment. Do you know that?
Yes, there is a specific license. Honestly, the idea of this presentation was really not to show you Omni Studio in details. It's just to give you a snapshot of what you can do in addition to Flow. But if you're interested, I can connect you with the right PMs and right folks about Omni Studio.
That got me curious. Well, there is a question from Ulrich. He says, what about invoking flows from Slack? Is it possible with the Salesforce plugin in Slack? Or does this also work like the SF plugin for Outlook, creating records simply?
All right, so let me move then to the demo of Flow in Slack so that I can answer that question. So let's see here, we have a screen flow, like a very basic screen flow that is available here on that page. That is just asking for a car selection. Like you want to rent a car, you select, what type of car do you want? Do you want this to be an electric vehicle? And then you can specify what do you want as, a GPS, for example, and then you can just finish that screen flow. Very simple screen flow. You can see it in here. It's very basic, but at least it shows you like a real use case example. So here, what I'm going to do is show you that you can go into Show Advanced, and then you have that selection here in our summer release that it says make available in Slack beta. What it does when you select that checkbox is that we restrict the number of components that you have available. So when you open the screen flow here, you can see that you only have a very limited subset of components. We are working hard to add a lot more than that in our next release, but for now, that's very much like a limited beta where you can only have pick list, radio button, and display text. And when you do this, when you make a screen flow available for Slack, what we do is that we automatically generate an action that is called, so if you go into that action here, sorry, I'm going to add one just to show you where it is. So you go into action, you go into Slack, and then in Slack, you will find all the actions that I mentioned before: create Slack channel, edit Slack channel, etc., etc. And then in that case, I want to find my screen flow, which is called Electron Motors Rental Car Selector. So what we'll do is that this Slack action will be called Slack send message to launch flow dash your screen flow API name. That's how you can find it. And then when you have it, then we let you configure all of this. So the matter of, in the interest of time, I have everything configured here. So what I mentioned before is that when you have connected your Salesforce, your Slack workspace to Salesforce, then we'll automatically show you what are the apps available on your workspace. So right now I have the 3 Salesforce app installed. I'm going to select the Salesforce Digital HQ as the app doing the work. And then you can select the workspace that have been connected. So you can have multiple workspace here. And then I want to execute the action as the Slack app. I definitely don't want to use that option of user who runs the flow in user context. That's not suitable. Then I'm gonna decide the Slack conversation here. I will provide a Slack message and then a button label for the start button. And then I'm gonna run this and you will see how it looks. Okay, let's run this. Okay, this is run. And then now I'm going to Slack and you see that my Salesforce for Slack app now has a message that say, hey, you just received this message, please fill out the car selector form. And when you click that start button, that's where the magic happens. That's where we take the ScreenFlow that is built all in Lightning components. We convert it into a technology that is called BlockKit. And all of this is run in native Slack BlockKit elements. So your ScreenFlow is exactly the same. We provide the exact same option. You have the same interface and the same options and everything, but it's just that it's all rendered dynamically or automatically in Slack. And done. So that's a very simple example just to show you that you don't have to do anything. You just click that button that say available in Slack, and then this can prompt into Slack. So to answer the question before, right now there is no way to easily call a ScreenFlow directly from Slack by using a / command. The reason is because the way Slack works today is that all the / commands needs to be kind of outcoded into your app. So there is no way for you to say, hey, Salesforce, expose this ScreenFlow and make it available in my Slack app. You have to update this, what we call the Slack app manifest. And that's very painful because every time you update the manifest, you have to ask your user to reinstall. So we decided that this is not something we want to support right now, the / command. So the solution here is that when something happens in Salesforce, then you can notify your user, or that can be in a channel, that can be a direct conversation, that can be whatever. And we send that message, and then you have a button that will start the flow. Later on, what we want to do is really make ScreenFlows available in Workflow Builder in this tool here called Workflow Builder. I don't know if you have played with it. That's a very nice way to create automation in Slack. And you will be able to create a process with different steps when someone join a channel, or when someone put an emoji, or someone do a reaction. And that's potentially when we want people to have a ScreenFlow. So imagine something like someone asking a question in a Slack channel, and then someone is putting an emoji approval or something, and then automatically we show that button that says start the approval flow, right? That's really the experience we want to create. That will not be available until we go GA at best, so that will be next year. But for now, I think we have a pretty good beta, and you can already start playing with it.
And some detailed questions like the user has to click a button to launch the ScreenFlow on the Slack side, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And can the ScreenFlow be multiple screens right now or not yet?
Yeah, you can create as many screens as you want. So in that very simple example, I have only one screen, but of course you can create as many as you want, and the user will navigate through these screens directly in Slack.
And this is confusing, I think, many people. Why do we have multiple apps, and what do they do differently?
Oh, you mean the Salesforce apps?
Yes, these.
So it really depends which type of customers of Salesforce you are. The recommendation is that if you are any Salesforce customer should install the Salesforce for Slack app. That's the basics. What you will get with this app are all these things, like you can potentially send messages to individual users. You can get approvals directly in Slack. So that's something that we already are shipping today, GA. So all your approvals will go directly into this Slack channel. So like platform features will be going through Salesforce for Slack. If you're a Service Cloud customer or Sales Cloud customer, then you probably want to have some dedicated features to these clouds. So Sales Cloud, for example, we provide / commands, like for example, get a sales menu or get a sales pipeline. Then with this / command, that will open all your opportunities. That will open be able to search within Salesforce. So that's additional capabilities. And that's the same thing for Service Cloud for Slack. What you want to do with Service Cloud is swarming. Be able to have multiple people swarming on the same channel on a specific problem that a customer is facing. You can do that by just using /service_swarm_start. We'll create a channel for you. We will grab the right person for this specific case. We'll get all this information tracked into Salesforce as well. So all these very specific features that you need as a cloud customer, then you have to install the app. So there is also a Tableau app called CRM Analytics for Slack. So that's why we have that many Slack apps.
Which one is Digital HQ? Is that the Salesforce for Slack?
Yes, that's a great question. So Digital HQ has been renamed Salesforce for Slack yesterday.
Oh.
So now it's Salesforce for Slack. So forget about Digital HQ. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's all right. So yeah, we have one more question here. So
yeah.
James said, so I've heard a good bit about Hyperforce lately, and it's an exciting idea with moving over to a different tenancy. Do you expect that CPU limits may be a bit harder to hit? Maybe flows run more quickly, so CPU limits are less likely to be hit by processes?
I don't believe that Hyperforce will change any limits. The reason is because only we are rolling out Hyperforce right now, making sure that our customers can run on AWS, but we have the exact same stack from like development standpoints. So all the logic that is currently established in our software, in the Salesforce software, the Salesforce product, is the same. It's exactly the same code that is running in AWS and in our own infrastructure. So I don't believe that that will change anything in terms of limits.
Okay. Antoine, I would like to thank you so much, because this was great. I mean, you've shown so many different things, and you answered so many different questions for me. I mean, that was awesome.